All right, all right, all right. Take two.
All right. It is Monday, and we're going to chat a little bit today about something that you can implement into your base training to make you stronger.
When you hear bass,
Because you know I'm all about that bass.
it's Monday afternoon, and we're it's been a day. We're here for you, and I think the one thing is, like, when you're looking at the base training, when we were talking about why we thought this topic was important, is that I think when people hear about base training, they think of it that it just needs to be easy and it needs to be aerobic and you need to do a lot of easy miles and blah blah blah. So it doesn't. And what we're going to talk about today is how you can develop your leg cannons.
He loves using that term, leg cannons. But it's true. So on the bike, we're going to be talking about developing that strength component on the bike. And one of the ways that we can do that is by implementing some lower cadence strength work. So what we're talking about here is dropping those RPMs down to 60, 70, 75 RPMs.
I had a joke. Can I say it?
Yeah.
I was drinking this coffee. Ironman, I don't clean this cup, obviously, or it's been used a lot, but Ironman. And I was
too many cups of coffee today. That's what that is.
And I was thinking about the lower cadence work. If you do it now, you can do Ironman Wisconsin and make it rain. But you don't want to make it rain at Wisconsin, because when it rains at Wisconsin like this year, it's terrible. But I digress.
Wow. Okay.
We're killing
Great.
it today.
Thanks for that, Stephen. That was a nice little segue.
Yeah,
there.
I took it away from the focus. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we're talking about lower cadence strength work.
Yeah.
And why we do it. So it is sport-specific strength training, kind of like running hills, and really working on increasing the torque that you're pushing into those pedals and beefing up the musculature to be able to push those pedals a little bit stronger. So if you lower the cadence, you're actually adding force to each leg individually.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're like creating a foundation to what the rest of the year will create. And a lot of times, because we know that intensity is important, and a lot of it is creating that launching pad that you can then launch off of to become stronger for the interval work that you're doing. So think of it like this connection process from you're starting here, you want to get here, and you're creating like this, like I said, like a connection to get to that point. And a lot of times what we find is that when people do lower cadence, higher torque work, they make that bridge and that process a lot easier, because you can't go from nothing and then go to hard, intense intervals. So when you create that strength, a lot of times that bridge work, it's easier. It's a much easier process.
Yep. So you're preparing the muscles and the tendons to be able to handle those higher outputs.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways of doing that. So it's not to say, okay, we're going to do 3 workouts a week that are all lower cadence. If you've never done lower cadence intervals before, you would start in a much different way than somebody who's been doing it for 3 to 4 years. So let's talk about workouts. So like, what do you think like an ideal place for a workout for a beginner would be for like a high torque, high intensity interval?
Yeah, I would just start really small, like a minute. And how low you go on cadence depends on how that... I'm just thinking about this coffee mug.
This dirty coffee mug.
I lost my train of thought there.
Like a minute?
Yeah, a minute. And then how low you go on your cadence depends on, how that interval is feeling for you as well. So some people dropping their cadence down to 75 might feel like a pretty good amount of work, and other people might need to drop down to a cadence of 60 to really feel that force. But I would also say one caveat here too is if you have an injury, like a knee injury specifically, maybe this is not the best advice to be implementing into your training because you're increasing the load on that one leg, right? So we wouldn't necessarily want to do that if you already have an injury that you're currently rehabbing.
Yeah, so if your IT band's hurting, don't start doing low cadence work because Cindy and Steve said so. But like Cindy was saying, the stress of this is the cadence. So if we're saying do 10 by 1 minute on, 1 minute off, and if 75 RPMs feels like whatever, then go to 70, go to 65. But you're trying to stress the torque element of it with the cadence element of it. So if you're new to it, maybe start with 10 by 1 on, 1 off, and you're going around 80 to 100% of your FTP, which is a big range. I get that. But the purpose of is to stress the RPM, the torque element. Because if you're not stressing that part, then you're not getting the foundational part that we're trying to trigger with it.
Yeah, and I would stay in the lower end of that 80 to 100% too, especially if this is a new thing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So try it out and let us know what you think. But we find this to be a very, very beneficial way in the bait season to kind of get some intensity, but not make it too intense towards burning you out come June or July. So, but one time a week, give it a shot. Cool.
Great.
Have a good one.